Hello and welcome to another AARP Arizona Happy Hour virtual tour. I am Brenda with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to the more than 100 million Americans 50 plus and their families: health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, the AARP Magazine and the AARP Bulletin. During this month, AARP will offer events and enriching experiences close to home and from your home that help you make connections and serve others. While our situations are different, our need for connection is universal. Now more than ever, we know that connecting with family and friends is vital to aging well and living longer and having happier lives. Visit us at aarp.org/AZ for more information. Thank you again for attending, and with that, I will turn things over to Marshall.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. I am so happy that you are here indeed. Oh my gosh. Have we got an amazing show for you this evening? So I want to welcome you all who are watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, however you're seeing this. If you're seeing it after we broadcast, that's why I love the fact that we're on YouTube, so you can go back and watch, or maybe you miss one of those stories and you want to go back and hear it again. That's how you can do it on Hip Historian at YouTube. All right, so today is August 10th. So back in 1882, the Arizona Territory census was basically declared good. And so it had back in 1882, it was certified that we had 82,976 residents in Arizona. Now, the largest population was Yavapai County with a little over 27.5 population, the smallest being Gila with just over 1,500 residents. Things have sure changed since those days. Oh my gosh. So also it is World Lion Day. So, it's a time where we can take a look at that majestic species that walks the earth. And this is really a day when we take a look and try to learn more about them and to bring awareness to the declining populations of lions globally. Now, it is also the Smithsonian Day. Now, some call it the nation's addict. The Smithsonian Institution was established today back in 1846 by an act of Congress. It is now the world's largest museum complex with 19 buildings in 2 states, that being New York and Washington. And so, has any of you ever been to any of the Smithsonians? Because they're pretty amazing. All right. It is also National S'mores Day. Now, not sure where they're making s'mores, but we probably could do it out on the sidewalk right now. No need to even start up a fire, if you even can start up a fire right now. But, take your graham cracker, put a piece of paper underneath it, some chocolate, go get some melty chocolate on the sidewalk. All right. It is also Skyscraper Appreciation Day because today, back in 1883, is the birth of William Van Allen. He was a designer, went on to design that famous Art Deco Chrysler building back in New York. Now, when we talk about Arizona, the very first skyscraper was the Heard Building Back in 1924, it was 7 stories tall and was the tallest building in Arizona at that point. Yeah, balance that to today, and we are looking at now a building was just okayed that is 44 stories tall. That's going to be right along Central Avenue between Adams and Monroe. 44 stories. I bet it has some amazing views from the very top. So, all right. So there's a lot going on today. So what can you expect from tonight's show? Well, you know, we always have a little bit of trivia. We do some music history, and I'm so excited for tonight's bit of music history. Oh my gosh. Little Arizona, as well as a beverage, and of course, a special guest. Now, if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? And why are all those over here? Why are all those Bob Big Boys over there? Well, that means I just I got here about 23 years ago, was working in Brooklyn and a Carnegie building, decided to trade that for this little library in South Phoenix, the Harmon Library, where there was a rich oral tradition of the community. And so that really got me learning about Arizona through stories. And you know what? Nothing has changed since then. Now, this is the house I'm in right now. And so this was 1956 and pretty much a time capsule. When I moved in, it was so many tones of beige on the outside. Now it is just seafoam and cantaloupe. Much better. And there's what my kitchen looks like today. So 1956, all that buttercream yellow tile, the electric appliances, and everything still works like a charm. As soon as I got here, I'll compare about there was no history here. But you know, I knew that wasn't true because every time I went somewhere, I kept coming across so many amazing people, places, and stories. And so that's what got me going and doing things like this. So I'm also called the hip historian, which means I get to play with Arizona history. As you can see, some of it back here. So the end of September at the Allwood House on the 29th, we are doing our band book reading, which I think is our 6th annual band book reading. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're just in the throes of putting that together. And then coming up early January for the 95th anniversary of the Orpheum, we are going to be doing Arizona Unzipped, an educational burlesque show. And we're going to start next week planning that already. So that way it's going to be really good. So, all right. So I see Deb and Alex have indeed found the chat session on the side. If you want to say something after the show, or maybe you have a great idea for a guest, because, you know, I love to hear from you all. You can throw that to me on Facebook, Instagram, email, or even my website, because I love to hear from you all. So here for happy hour, we indeed have a beverage. And so tonight it is called the 5 C's Teeny. Now we're using Chakra Vodka, which is a local distillery out of downtown Cave Creek. And its flavor is honey and lemon balm. Now, out of all the 7 flavors, all the 7 chakras, this represents the throat chakra, which is saying we're using this one because it really honors that speaking up and telling your story. As also has Siricao, which is an orange liqueur, as well as cinnamon, because it gives you an illusion of a fall spice, of cooler weather that will someday be gracing our doorsteps. Not right now, but soon it will. So, you know, PJ made it all up. All I've got to do is put it in my little shaker, shake away. Pour it in my glass, glug, 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 glug. All right, so here we are with our 5C Teeny. Oh, and I also forgot to say it's got coconut water in it for hydration on a hot day like today. Wow. You know what I love? I think he's testing out a lot of cocktails on me to see my reaction, because I'm like, I know that's going to wind up on a list of someplace. All right. So as we talk about places across Arizona, Today, we are going to talk about Nothing, Arizona. It's in Mojave County, had at its height a population of 4. It's now 0. It was established back in 1977, and its claim to fame now is that it has a call box from ADOT. So if you get stranded near Nothing, you can at least call out from Nothing. At one point, it had a gas station, a small convenience store. Those closed in about 2005. A few years later, someone tried to revive it and bring it back trying to create like an RV park there, which didn't work. Then Century 21 ran a special where you could give Dad nothing. You could get a 24-hour lease on a little piece of nothing, and that allowed you to give your dad nothing for Father's Day. So, all right. So that's our little Arizona. Oh, I forgot to even show. And so if you're ever driving up that way, you will see the sign that says nothing. And indeed, there is nothing. All right. So now is the point where we get to talk to somebody else besides just me and hear another voice. And oh my gosh, I am so excited to bring on Susan. Hello. How are you?
I am so disappointed that this is online and that we're not together at your place, because I want to drink some of that lemon balm vodka and I want to be surrounded by your baubles.
I've got a few. So, Susan, for folks that don't know who you are, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I am originally a Jersey girl. We bond over our East Coast heritage. And then I lived in South Dakota for 20 years. And then I moved to Arizona 4 years ago. And I am the executive director at the Mesa Historical Museum.
Which is a really cool museum. And that's why we're here, because that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the stuff that's going on there.
We have lots going on.
You do indeed. And so for our trivia, what we're going to do is, so we have trivia questions and they're all multiple choice. So even if you don't know the answer, all you got to do is guess. And then we'll take a little bit of an hour and a music break and then come back and talk about the stories of those answers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I've got friends that keep track of it in a notebook. I've got one friend who likes to write it on some exposed part of skin on his body and then sends me photos of it, an arm, a leg, a thigh. So, however you want to keep track of your score, some folks keep it even in the chat session. So, whatever, enjoy and have fun. That is indeed the goal. So our first question, what year did the Territorial capital move from Tucson back to Prescott? And that was the first, and also the first Mormon settlers arrived in Arizona. Was that A, 1850, B, 1860, C, 1870, or D, 1900? So when do you think that was? All right. Which one is one of the 5 C's? Computers, A, B, construction, C, citrus, or D, convertibles? Which one of those is one of the classic Arizona 5 C's? All right, question 3. Who is considered to be the father of the Cactus League? A, Dwight Patterson, B, Horace Stoneham, C, Ted Sliger, or D, Barry Goldwater? All right, so who is considered to be the father of the Cactus League? All right, moving on to question 4. What was the name of the famous hot mineral bath that attracted famous ball players during spring training? Was it A, the Kiva Hotel, B, the Ritz, C, the Buckhorn, or D, the Mesa Room? All right, so which one of those do you think was a famous hot mineral bath located right in Mesa that attracted baseball players and so many others? All right, question 5. The Mesa Historical Museum opened in 1987, the same year that A, Evan Mecham became governor, B, Evan Mecham is impeached, C, Rose Mofford becomes governor, or D, La Paz County is created from a portion of Yuma County. All right. So as we come down that halfway slope, all right. Question 6. The artist Karen Kuykendall was known for creating hundreds of paintings with animals. A particular animal. Was it A, an eagle, B, a horse, C, a cat, D, a human, or E, none of the above? And there's no clues on screen. No clues on screen. So, all right. How many cats did Karen Kuykendall have? Was it A, 8, B, 10, C, 12, or D, 16? How many cats did Karen Kuykendall have? All right. Question 8. Who were the first to live in the area now called Mesa? Was it A, Mormons, B, miners, C, Hohokam, or D, released inmates?
D.
Making it all the way from Yuma. All right. And so moving on to question 9. What is the oldest standing school in Mesa? A, Irving School, B, Mesa High School, C, Lincoln School, D, Lee High School. Which one of those is the oldest standing school in Mesa? And here we are on our very last question. The Mesa Historical Museum is located where? A, downtown Mesa, B, Lehigh, C, inside the Mesa Arts Center, or D, City Hall. Where do you think the Historical Museum for Mesa is located? All right. Well, you are all locking in your final answers. I see we have quite an active crowd tonight in the chat session. All right. So, with music, I was like, since we're talking a lot about Mesa, let's stick to Mesa. And one of my favorite places in the city, if not the state, Oregon Stop Pizza. Now, it started back in 1972. It was in Central Phoenix with a Wurlitzer organ that was originally built for Grauman's Hollywood Theater. It was so successful, they decided that they would open one up in Mesa. And those were extremely popular. And as time went on, the owner retired, sold it to a long-term employee who decided that he wanted the world's largest Wurlitzer organ ever. To the point where in the mid-90s, they built a brand new facility and housed the world's largest Wurlitzer organ. So if you've not been, they've been now doing this for 51 years. And it's pretty amazing with pizza and the organ. Just look at that organ. Oh my gosh. And what I love is when you go, they're having birthday parties for 3-year-olds and 95-year-olds at the same time. You can request music to be played, and the entire room gets involved. Yeah, Sarah, I know the pizza's not that amazing, but it's not better. It's not edible. But
it's the atmosphere.
It's the atmosphere, the salad bar. Mm-hmm. They have ice cream. So, even if you don't get pizza, there's other things you can do there as well. And just sit back and enjoy the music. Now, I've been trying to actually get myself invited to go inside the organ, because I'm like, how cool would that be? So I will let you all know if I do indeed make that happen. All right. So now who's ready for some answers? All right. So what year did the Territorial capital move from Tucson back to Prescott, as well as the first Mormon settlers arrived in Arizona? 1877. And who were some of those folks that came to Arizona? You had that whole Mormon trail kind of up in the northern part of Arizona. I'm sure there was. So was there a family named Mesa?
Are you asking me, Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there wasn't a family named Mesa. There was two companies. So the first company was the Utah company, and they settled in what is Lehi. And then the second company that came after that was the Mesa company, which settled in Mesa, and that was 1878. So a lot of the names that you see around Mesa, Pomeroy, Rogers, Chrisman, Dana, all those names, they were all the original, we call them the founding families. So that's where all those names came from. They were the founding families that first arrived here in Arizona.
Oh, wow. Very cool. And I think there may be a statue of some of them across from the temple on right on light rail.
Yes, and they talk about all the founding families. And of course, Daniel Webster Jones is the one that led, he was the leader of the company that that Brigham Young sent down here. So he was instrumental in settling in Lehi.
Wow.
And we have a whole list of, we have a whole room dedicated to those founding families at the Mesa Historical Museum.
Oh my gosh, almost like that was planned.
So much more.
Oh, indeed, and there is so much more, because that's only the first question, and there's more.
Yeah, that was only the first question.
Indeed, and there's so much more for us to cover. All right. So which one of those is the 5? Oh, I should have made a list of the 5 C's for this also. That would have been probably useful as well. So we have copper, cattle, cotton, climate, and sea citrus.
Yes, and in Mesa, we have 6 C's, the Cubs.
Ah, indeed.
Which you can learn about at the Mesa Historical Museum.
But the ones that I love about Mesa is, the fact that the Sunkist building is still there. It was built in the 20s and is now an event space.
I didn't even know what it was inside. Yeah, we drive past there all the time, but I didn't know what's going on inside. But it's we did some before and after photos, and it looks exactly the same.
Right. I love the fact they've left that ghost sign.
Yeah, it's still there. It's just faded, but it's still there.
Right. It's still there, so we can still see it. And indeed. All right. Oh, what did I do there? I clicked on the wrong button. Who is considered to be the father of the Cactus League?
Dwight Patterson, who is from Mesa. And he was a Mesa rancher, and he was well connected to Horace Stoneman from the Giants, and he also knew P.K. Wrigley from the Cubs, and he was responsible for talking the Cubs into coming to play spring training in Arizona, as well as the Giants. So, and he founded the Mesa Hohokams, which are a baseball organization that operate at the different games, and they do a lot of charitable work. So he is considered by many to be the father of the Cactus League. Wow. How cool is that? Yes.
And of course, with the Cactus League, it brought so many other folks as well.
Oh, yeah. And he also, it was part of Governor Moffort's task force that he was assigned to, but he had those connections. And so fortunately he did. And that's why we have the spring training in Mesa.
Indeed. And what was the name of the famous Mineral Hot Springs bath that attracted famous baseball players during spring training?
The Buckhorn Baths.
The fabulous Buckhorn Baths. So, yeah. And so I hear there's an exhibit coming up.
There's an exhibit at the Mesa Historical Museum. We are opening on the 19th an exhibit dedicated to the Buckhorn Baths, to Ted and Alice Sliger, who are the ones that opened and created the Buckhorn Baths. And the reason it's so famous is because that was used by the then New York Giants, and that's where they spent their spring training when they came down here. They wanted to use the therapeutic baths. The team owner thought that was really good for them. It was just healthy, get them in better shape from the off season. And so the Buckhorn Bath was the place to go.
Indeed. And it was the place to go with such an amazing history. And I hear that J. Mark will be presenting.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, you know that
He's
guy.
giving a special presentation at 9 a.m. at the Mesa Historical Museum.
9 a.m. 9 a.m.
At 9 a.m. because he's going to talk for so long, and we open at 10. So he's going to give his presentation, and then after you hear everything there is about the buckhorn, you can come into the museum and see the exhibit, and that's free. It might be standing room only. I don't know. Jay packs a crowd.
He does indeed, but oh my gosh, we'll just be able to see a lot of those photos.
We have so much cool memorabilia from the buckhorn and some amazing photos. And for the first time ever, we have home movies from Alice and Ted that they took over the years from the 40s and the 50s that has never been seen. We discovered it and we got it digitized. So we have that in the exhibit as well.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
Some really cool things that we have on exhibit.
Yeah. Indeed. I love found film like that. All right. The Mesa Historical Museum opened its doors back in 1987, the same year that Ev Mecham became governor of Arizona. Now, that didn't last long because a year later he was impeached, and then we had Rose Mofford coming up as our governor. And she was an amazing governor. So there you go. All right. So now we get a chance to talk a little bit about
my favorite.
Indeed. So question 6. Artist Karen Kuykendall was well known for creating hundreds, only hundreds.
It could be 1,000, Marshall. We've got so many paintings. I don't know. It could be 1,000.
And what were all those paintings of?
I would say 80% of them have cats in them.
Indeed, and not just cats, but
sci-fi.
Oh, indeed, yes, sci-fi. And all right, and I don't want to give anything away for the next question, but I love how she made clothing, statues, jewelry, so much related.
Yeah, she made that cape. So that cape you're looking at, she made that. She made all the cat sculptures, and then her paintings. She was so prolific. I mean, her paintings we have a huge map cabinet with drawers, and they are just loaded with her art.
And some amazing stuff. Oh my gosh.
Really amazing. Yes.
All right. And so how many cats did Karen have?
She had 16 when she passed away in 1998. And as a matter of fact, she had 16 cats. And when she would go to these sci-fi conventions, she would bring some of her cats with her, and they would kind of hang out at the table when she was selling her art or displaying her costumes or whatever she was doing. So yeah, that was an interesting fun fact.
Now, didn't she also do a set of tarot cards?
She did. So she was this prolific artist. And then in the later part of her life, she really started incorporating science fiction and cats into her art. She created an entire world called Cosmic Cats. But she was too far ahead of her time, and science fiction wasn't really big in the 70s. But then comes the 80s, and people started to notice. And so this gaming company that made tarot cards approached her and asked her if she would do the art for the tarot cards. So Karen really wasn't into tarot cards, but she made the artwork for, I think they're like 72 cards, which you can get at the Mesa Historical Museum. And so we have a whole exhibit on her art, on her science fiction, on her tarot cards, but she also did a lot of other art. She did, a lot of pen and ink. She did a lot of acrylic. She did a lot of hippie. You've seen it, Marshall. You loved her.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was like the range of art that she was doing. The range of
her art. Wasn't it to you like seeing several different artists in one exhibit, not realizing that it was the same person?
I mean, right. I mean, if her name had not been attached to it, I would have sworn it was a collective of different artists, because such different styles, such different mediums. Even the color palettes were so different.
Everything was different. So it's not just cats. I don't want people to think if they come that it's just going to be cat art, because we purposely went out of our way to make sure there was a diverse selection of art in that exhibit, and we change it out every year because we inherited over 250 boxes of her stuff. So we have a lot of amazing art to keep exhibiting.
And it really is. I mean, that's actually how we first met. Was I went out there to go see it with my friend Kate, and I was like, oh my god! And we were so excited to
hanging out in this cat exhibit for so long. I didn't understand. I had to introduce myself.
Indeed. Well, there was so much to look at. So yeah, I mean, some really cool stuff. So okay. So if I go in for the Buckhorn exhibit, can I also go see Karen Kuykendall's exhibit?
Yeah, so we'll have free admission for that morning. And so if you come in to see the Buckhorn, nobody is going to stop you from going down the hallway and seeing the rest of we have 7 exhibits. So you're welcome to look around and see our other exhibits.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that the greatest?
Yeah, that's like the best deal going.
It's a great deal. And you get Jay.
Oh, I know he's wearing one of those ties. I bet he's wearing a Buckhorn tie, I bet.
Oh, he'll be doing something. I bet you if he's watching, Jay, we love you.
Well, she does. I'm still kind of lukewarm. Maybe more tepid. So, all right. So who were the first to live in the area now called Mesa? And throughout the entire, it's like the reason why we're all here is because of the Mecham. Mm-hmm. And all the agriculture they were able to bring in, their understanding of water, the irrigation, the canals they dug.
Yeah, today. We use the original canals that they dug all those years ago.
Yeah. And so I just think it's great that you folks have an exhibit up that talks about them.
Yeah, our exhibit is dedicated to the Salt River Pima Maricopa community. So the Acamel, Odom, and Pipash. And so we worked closely with the Cultural Resources Department of the tribe, and they helped us create this beautiful permanent exhibit, which was long overdue. And now that's a permanent part of our museum.
Very cool. All right. What is the oldest standing school in Mesa?
It's we're the home of the Mesa Historical Museum, the Lehigh School.
Because, so I know initially we were having some issues with the questions because there were other schools that are older.
Yes, but like Mesa, the original Mesa High had burned down. And I think one of the other schools had burned down. So ours is the oldest school that is still standing. So our school was built in 1913. And of course, it's still standing today, which has become the home of the museum. And you and I were talking about this before we came on our podcast, that I get a wonderful visit every single year. He was 92 when I met him, and he's 96 now. His name is Bill Leslie, and he comes by every year because he went to school at the Lehigh School. And he comes in and he reminisces, and he remembers every single teacher from every single grade. He talks about riding his horse, tying it to a hitching post out back, hitching a ride on a wagon for 5 cents, to go into town. And then he talks about how the Lehigh kids in that area were different and rivalries to the Mesa kids. And so when he got to Mesa High School, there was this Lehigh Mesa rivalry. And he just has these amazing stories. And I was able to record him at the second year I met him. I thought that I better get him on video. So I videoed all of these stories that he tells. And he's got just this amazing mind and amazing memory. It's just the sweetest thing. And he gets really choked up when he comes back and he sees his classroom. It's so adorable. I love his visits.
Well, and that's so interesting that there would be this rivalry because, I mean, they weren't far apart. I mean, Lehigh and Mesa.
But think about it, 1877 and 1878, and there's still...
I know, I guess you're still on foot on a horse. I mean,
exactly.
Right. I mean,
they were the country kids in Lehigh. I mean, we are located in a beautiful agriculture area of Mesa with every day I hear roosters out there and horses go by and there's goats. I hear sheep some days, and it's just a wonderful place to be working out there. And then, of course, Mesa was considered more urban. So even back then, there was that difference in the cultures of these two areas.
Wow. And what a beautiful building. I didn't realize it was just, a year after statehood was when that building opened its doors. That's pretty cool.
It's a little difficult to maintain it, but it's still standing.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So, I'm in my little 1956 house, and there are still days where it's hard.
Yeah, exactly. Every week I face, something falls off, but it's a really great building to work in.
It is indeed. All right. And the Mesa Historical Museum is located where?
In Lehigh area.
Okay. So how would people get to Lehigh?
So, and I don't know the exact how far the parameters reach, but we are off of Mecham and North Horn. So that whole area, there's the Lehigh Elementary School. So that kind of whole agriculture area off of Mecham over by North Horn, Lehigh Road, that's considered Lehigh.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah, these like you've got and actually we can talk a little bit about, so I always like to ask people how they did, because I always think it's kind of fun. Oh, look and see, there's Pam going, oh, she did really good. That's a really high score for us. Usually it's more like 3, 4, or like some of the higher scores. Oh, wow. Okay. And so now I know we've been talking a lot about, so here is the actual address of the museum.
Mm-hmm.
So people are trying to track it down. And so that way they can come hear J. Mark talk about the history of the buckhorn and maybe even buy a book that he wrote.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
We have them for sale at the Mesa Historical Museum.
You might want to come after he's done talking.
I bet you he's going to hawk them out of the back of his car. So you could buy it from him, or you could buy it from the gift shop.
Buy it from the gift shop.
Maybe Jay will give you a discount. Ask Jay for a discount.
Oh, he's going to love you. Now, one of the things I love is, so you've got the ball, you got the Kuykendall, the indigenous, the Odom Pishposh. What other exhibits do you have?
Well, we've got the Mesa History Room, which talks about the founding of Mesa and the 5 C's, which we covered. We also have the founding family rooms, which we mentioned. We also have a replica of the one-room adobe schoolhouse that existed before our school was built. So when they outgrew the one-room schoolhouse, then they built the Lehigh School. And so we have that open, and we have some beautiful pictures from early 1900s classes. So you can see some of the second grade, third grade classes from 1919, 1930. And so we have that, and you could, and we've kind of tried to just do a replica of what that schoolhouse looked like back in the day.
Wow, so all kinds of cool stuff. But I also love, and I see Vince just asked a question, but that kind of comes up in the next, because you don't just do stuff in your walls.
No,
we get out and do some other stuff.
We have, Marshall, we have huge grounds. We have just a huge front lawn, and it's been tremendous. Our next upcoming event, we have a historic cemetery tour, which coincidentally J. Mark participates in. And what we do is the cemetery allows us to go in. We choose 12 to 14 grave sites of people that have made a great contribution to the founding of Mesa. And then we get narrators who stand at these different grave sites. And so it's a self-guided walking tour, and you go up to that narrator, and then they tell you a story, but not just a dry story about, this person was born and when they died, but some anecdotes and some great personal history. And a lot of times, most of the times, we try to get a family member to narrate. So it's been really awesome to get some family members talking about their ancestor. So we do that in October, and that's a fundraiser because, of course, we're not a nonprofit. And then we also have a big holiday arts and crafts fair. That's on our front lawn. We have about 60 vendors, all local handcrafted vendors, and we have free admission. And then in February, Marshall, I have 3 volunteers. One of them is my little mom, and they have been sorting books. We get books donated, and we have over 40,000 books that we put out on our front lawn. and we sell them for a weekend, the week before the VNSA sale at the fairgrounds. And that is our biggest fundraiser. And as you and I talked about, I didn't want to just talk about the books like there wasn't anything exciting, but I wanted you to see some of the books that you can buy. Here is the zombie survival guide, complete protection from the living dead. And by the way, if it's a paperback, it's only $1. And if it's a hardcover, it's $2. So this is $1.
Wow. And you can learn how to survive the zombie apocalypse.
And if that doesn't work for you, this is the yoga of ghost hunting, and tips and techniques for psychic protection. So here's that. I apologize to all the wonderful men in my life, but this happened to be a book that got donated today, and I had to show it. Men are jerks. This isn't true, but it has been a published book, and it might be considered a vintage book, so it might be a little bit more than $2. And and this one is one of my favorites. This is the Book of Losers.
Is that by J. Mark? It's by J. Mark?
And I looked in it, and what's so funny is it lists losers of life, and then it lists all these people that died tragically in funny ways. And then another chapter is losers of body functions. And so body functions, I thought, lose control of your bodily functions, but no, people that have lost body parts in freak accidents. So if you're done with All Men Are Jerks, you can then buy the Book of Losers.
Wow.
And the last one is, and I always say this, I'm not crazy, I'm just not you. And
Indeed.
This is soft cover, so this is $1. And on Sunday we discount, so that you might be able to get this for 50 cents.
Wow, that's a bargain.
I know. So it's worth coming to our book fair just to see the amazing titles. And we must have maybe 500 rare and vintage books from the early 1900s, and some of them are from the 1800s, and they sold like hotcakes last year. And we have probably triple the amount this year.
Wow. And, and so, I mean, that Book of Losers, I feel I should buy just because, like so many folks, I bought lottery tickets because it was a really big jackpot and I didn't win.
And I know, loser.
I'm a loser. So, yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know we're not just a history museum, Marshall. We have all kinds of things going on.
Indeed. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's like, so how long is the Buckhorn exhibit up? So say somebody can't get out there next weekend.
Oh, if they can't, that's going to be a bummer because it's only going to be up for a year. It opens this month, but we keep it open till June, and then every summer we swap it out for and so I can tell you that an upcoming special exhibit is going to be Cowboys and Aliens, but we're just going to leave it at that. We're not quite sure how we're going to structure it, but after the Buckhorn, we're going to follow that up with Cowboys and Aliens. So we do a lot of fun things too at the museum. We do pop-ups. As a matter of fact, J. Mark's twin brother, Vic, gave me the idea to do, we're going to do a pop-up exhibit with pop-ups. So vintage pop-up books, which are really popular and huge, especially over in like Asia and Europe. And so we're going to do a pop-up book pop-up. So we're just constantly changing. We change out our current exhibits. We add new exhibits. We do pop-ups. Yeah. We're a busy bunch over in Lehigh with the
and it's not that far away. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, and just the front of the school is beautiful with all that growth.
Oh yeah, a lot of people walk around our grounds. We're working on getting some of our old farm equipment put out so people can look at that. We've got signs made, so we're gonna get our agriculture exhibit ready this fall. So you'll be able to walk around the grounds. We have a beautiful courtyard. Sometimes people bring their lunch and they sit on a bench in the shade in our courtyard and eat lunch. So yeah, we're a nice little place.
Indeed, that's really cool. All right. So, Susan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about yourself, about the museum, and some of the really cool stuff you've got coming up. And I would say, if people want to, they probably could go to the museum and then stop by Oregon Stop Pizza for some music.
Yes, we're not far from that. So and we have people do that. They come to the museum and then they all talk about where to go to lunch and they go to the Oregon Stop.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you should do a program with them.
I should do. And we have an old organ. We have an 1890s organ on display, an old pump organ. So maybe we could get that organist to come over and we give out free pizza.
Scott to come over and play your old pedal organ.
Yeah, play our old pump organ and bring some free pizza. Now, you and I are both from the East Coast, so no matter what kind of pizza we get, it's just not going to be good enough, no matter what.
That is true. So
it's just the way it is.
Right. But there is edible pizza, and I have actually had inedible pizza.
Oh, yeah. I have had inedible pizza too.
Yeah. So not a fan of that. So.
No. Marshall, thank you so much for having me and for letting me tell folks about our museum. I hope people come and visit us.
Indeed. Have a great rest of your night.
You too. Hopefully I'll see you next Saturday.
I hope so.
You, me, and Jay and your vodka.
Exactly. Those appletinis that he keeps
the
haranguing me for.
The appletinis will be waiting.
Indeed. All right. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Oh my gosh, Susan. Susan, thank you so much. That was just so much fun. So now we're getting ready for a segment I like to say from the vault, which is something, you might drive by daily and not know what it is or anything. And so again, kind of sticking with that Mesa theme, I was like, let's talk about the Rose Garden. So Mesa Community College in the early 70s started a Rose Garden as a collaboration, and it now has, you can stop and smell the roses, only 9,000 roses, over 300 different varieties that you can admire, smell, and just enjoy. And also, it's not just a landmark to celebrate roses, but it is also now a test garden, for one of 26 across the country for unique roses. And I love the fact that it is maintained by the deadheaders and the pruners, which are all community volunteers, which you can learn more about that by checking them out. Now, the best times to go and visit the Rose Garden are, of course, not right now. We're talking like April, May, June, and then October, November, December. Some of those later months, you might even have family in town then. Great place to take everybody. But if you go, what I love is it's not just that, but oh my gosh, it's so much more. You've got riparian, you've got desert plants, xeriscaping. So much greenery that grows right here in Arizona, which is really cool, not to just see those roses, but to see so much more. Oh my gosh. Such a great little place to stop off and, maybe you want to redo some of the plants in your yard. Here's a chance to see what you like. Maybe you want to plant some roses. All right, so now you'll see why I say if you're watching on Facebook, you should click that share button because, oh my gosh, look how much fun we are having with Arizona history. Now, next week, we have Stephen Hardy, who is a local author, going to be talking about some of his favorite spots in Arizona to get a little bit of culture and go have some fun. So that will be next Thursday, 7 o'clock right here. I will see you all then. As we say good night, I love to hear from you all. I want to give a shout out, as always, to Chris and Cole, who did that great little video at the beginning, as well as PJ for bringing a delightful 5C Teeny for my glass. And as we talk about history tours, we are going to part tonight with ASU. We did a little history tour there. And so it turned out to be this video that's really cool, I think. So here we go. See you next week.
Hi, I'm Marshall Shore, Arizona's hip historian, and I want to welcome you to Arizona State University's Tempe campus. Arizona State University was not always called that. Originally, it was called the Territorial Normal School. The building we're standing in front of, Old Main, was first dedicated in 1898. Now, leading the trend, just like ASU is today, it was wired with electricity. So that way, if you flipped a switch, the lights came on. Now, back in 1911, former President Teddy Roosevelt actually dedicated the Roosevelt Dam from these very steps. In front of us is the fountain, Kachina Fountain. You'll notice that it has 4 kachinas around it, and those 4 kachinas are considered to be guardians of well-being in Hopi lore. Originally, the flute player was intended to top the Old Main Fountain back in 1934, but they ran out of money. This version is based on a model that Emery Kopta's widow had kept. This 6-foot version was created and installed in a less public area as the Hopi Tribal Council has requested. Welcome to University Club, a 1909 building, originally the Science Hall. The exclusive membership is comprised currently of retired faculty, staff, alumni, community, and corporate members. I want to welcome you to the Secret Garden, which is a very secluded spot right in the middle of ASU's campus. So this was the activity field or the backyard for Dixie Gamage Hall, which opened its doors in the early 40s as a woman's residence. It was named for the wife of President Grady Gamage, ASU's 9th president. She was known to be very active in the community and the development of ASU, but also for her friendly demeanor. Now, when you walk into Dixie Gamage Hall, the most interesting thing, I think, is it's the only building on campus that has a doorbell. Today, it's full of offices supporting ASU. Many of those rooms still have a sink and a mirror, harkening back to those dormitory days. Welcome to Palm Walk. This iconic pathway, said to be the most photographed spot on campus, filled with elegant palms on both sides, is over 100 years old. They've recently been replaced with date palms. I want to welcome you to ASU Gamage. Now, in the late 20s, Frank Lloyd Wright moved to Arizona and built his second home, Taliesin West. He then got involved with lots of other projects. So not surprising when Grady Gamage, then ASU's president, wanted a unique auditorium for the campus. And as they were walking through campus, Frank Lloyd Wright falls in love with this field and said he imagined something circular with arms outstretched as if to say, welcome to ASU. Why, I was just here to see a show the other night that was pretty amazing. Have you been inside?